Chapter 11. A line of orange is painted across the night when little Mikey wakes. From left to right, light is rising. In the giant cab, the driver is silhouetted against the coming sun. Even though the truck roars as it always does, somehow, in the early dawn, there is quiet in the high cab. There is peace. Little Mikey takes stock. Beside him, the driver's blankets are piled in the corner, and beneath them is his suitcase, half open. On the floor between the two seats ahead sits a gas burner, its little gas bottle disconnected, and a pot placed beside it, the handle of a spoon protruding. Little Mikey reaches out and finds his backpack, safe. He puts his hands into his pockets. The first thing he feels is the necklace, all twisted up with the coins and money notes he has secreted in there. Carefully, he pulls it out, moving slowly so that the driver does not yet know that he is awake. In his hand is all the evidence of the night before. He looks from the chain to the money from Big Jan, Brian and Angelo. He sighs. He could have bought his own food and even asked the driver for the lift himself, using his own money. But instead he allowed his friend to think he had nothing. He lied to him. I will do better, he thinks. He sees Angelo's smiling face in his mind. Gently, he untangles the necklace from the coins. He slips them into his pocket. By the sun's faint light, he examines the chain. It is just as he remembers, a shimmering wisp of gold somehow alight in the darkness. On its end is a cross, also gold. He rubs it between finger and thumb, remembering the woman's sleeping face, her beautiful face. He remembers his mama. He wraps it all up and slips it into his left pocket. The left pocket is for her, the right pocket for everything else. What you got there? Little Mikey starts. He didn't think the driver could see him. Just my things, the man smiles, his head held up to the growing dawn. How much do I owe you? No, don't worry. Angelo fixed that for you. You know Angelo? Yeah, I gave him a lift before. The dawn rises. Come sit up front here. A man can't talk nice to someone behind him. Little Mikey places his backpack carefully on the floor next to the burner, then clambers down and across to the passenger seat. The driver watches him take his place with a kind eye. He reaches to the dash to lift a styrofoam cup from a middle holder. He passes it over. The cup is steaming. Little Mikey blinks. The man must have stopped off while he was sleeping. Coffee with 3 sugars and milk. This is the only drink for sunup on the road. The heat from the cup seeps into little Mikey's palms. He balances it on his leg and carefully peels off the lid. Steam rises, dampening his face. He has never drunk coffee before. Carefully, he brings it to his mouth. He takes a tiny sip, slurping against the heat. Bitter. He takes another, and sweet. The flavor spreads across his tongue and the warmth down his throat. Sunrise is my favorite time. You always got hope at sunrise. Little Mikey turns to the line of gold that splits the world. Where will it come up? That's east. The driver points to his right, taking his hand off the giant wheel to do it. It's going to come up over the escarpment, so we will be in shadow for long. Little Mikey imagines it. He sees a mountain looming 2,000 meters over them, trucks falling from its sheer sides as they attempt to make it to the top. How far is the escarpment? 2 hours ride still. They say Kaapse Punt, Cape Point. They say that's the tip of Africa. But I say no. It's the escarpment. That is where the continent starts. Because you can't get to Grootstad if you don't go up it. And Grootstad is the heart of Africa. The driver pulls on his smoke. Money, my boy. Grootstad is where the money comes from. And money makes the wheels on my truck go round. He sips on his coffee. Slowly, light comes. Where have you seen Angelo before? A few places, one stops and such. He's a road person. He lives out here. Are there many road people? You don't know. I thought you were a road person. Little Mikey thinks for a moment. No, I'm just trying to get to Grootstad. The driver nods. He takes another look at little Mikey, glancing sideways. He turns back to the dawn. I would say maybe there are 50, maybe 70. I've driven this country top to tail, border to border, many times. He reaches out, absently stroking the hard black plastic of the dash before him. You get lots of people hiking for lifts on the roads, but of the proper road people, I will say only 50 to 70. He thinks a moment, the clattering silence and the freezing dawn and the warm heater between them. They are special people, I must say. A life on the road is not for everyone. Most people in hard times get lost in the cities. You will see in Gautstad, it's full of the hopeless. They are drowning there among the smoke and the traffic. But out here on the highway, it's open. The road people are free people. That's why I like them. He sips his coffee and then places it back in the cup holder. He reaches forward for a cigarette from his packet and lights it, silhouetted against the first whisper of the sun. Sometimes they find a place in the cities, he says, exhaling and then dragging again before opening his window just a crack, the icy wind joining them. But they always come back. He smokes, quite awake now. Look, he says suddenly, punching out his left hand to the windshield. Highway 4, you see it? Mikey looks. Out there is a snake of tar just catching the new light. That'll take you to Egypt, my boy, all the way. Do you want to see the pyramids? Yes, uncle. Yeah, that's the way, all the way to the end. He pauses and then adds, I haven't been to the pyramids, but I've seen other things. The animals of Africa. Do you know that up north you will see elephants standing on the side of the road? Just here, on the side, standing like cows. Both of them consider the roadside, the emptiness of it, the fullness of so much life, invisible yet all around them, the silence of it. Have you seen an elephant? No, uncle. Hell, they're big. A big bull. His eye would be looking straight in at us. His head is as big as this cab. I heard of a man 220 that hit an elephant in the dark. Do you know what happened? No, uncle. Buggered! The whole front of the cab crushed in, the load jackknifed. And do you know what he was carrying? No, uncle. Soccer balls. So there was blue and white soccer balls bouncing all over the veldt. A bad thing. They could not take the truck and the bull apart. He nods to himself. That's why you always sleep in the truck up there, from Botswana up, because of the wild animals. You even pee from the truck. I seen a lion in the bush while I was peeing once. I kid you not. He looks across at little Mikey. You ever looked into the eyes of a big cat? No, uncle. That is a frightening thing, my boy. You're looking in the eyes of death. Are there lions down here? Of course! But not by the roads. They've been shot out. You only get lions and such in the game parks. Have you been to a game park? No, uncle. Me neither. I don't have time for a holiday. Driving is my holiday. Look at this. He waves to the land forming in dawn's light. There is not a better view than this. At this time, while we wait for the sun. I love it. They drive, plummeting through the dawn. Soon the sun has risen. Mikey's coffee is drunk and the land spreads out flat and endless on either side. The place is brown and orange, dry, a place of buried water and gnarled trees. In the distance the escarpment rises, a fortress of sheer and rocky sides, the weathered cliffs of a kingdom hidden up there in winter's pale sky. Little Mikey looks on in trepidation. The sun has risen above the cliff and it shines on them now. It makes a line of shadow that they will soon pass under. Little Mikey squints ahead at the sheer walls, looking for the telltale shine of road, and half expecting to see lorries like their own falling like shed skin from its side. My dad taught me to drive a lorry. I wasn't too much older than you, just a small boy. It's a good career, but you can't always rely on it. That's why I got a trade too. What's a trade, uncle? Something you can do that not many know how to do. A specialization. Me, I'm a fitter and turner, a machinist. I can make anything out of metal, anything you want. I just need the right machines. I can even work a forge like a blacksmith. So if the shit hits the fan and I can't drive a lorry no more, I can make things out of metal. You always need metal. Everything man-made comes from metal. Fire gave us freedom from nature, and metal gave us power over it. He strokes his moustache. His fingers are short and strong. They are fingers that have made a life of machines, of twisting metal and turning pipes. Grease layers each chipped fingernail. It is ingrained in the skin. Man is a strange animal, don't you think? We are soft like worms. Compared to an animal of the bush, we are weak, but we are clever. He taps the side of his head. Every creature does something. A lion hunts, so does a cheetah. A buck eats grasses. A termite makes a hill to live inside. Every animal does one thing and then does it again, over and over. A dog, it pleases its owner. What do? I don't know, uncle. We create. That's what makes us different from any animal. No matter that we are weak and they are strong. We can imagine. We can think about the future. We can build something like this truck beneath us. That is what the human creature does. We make things over and over. How much knowledge is in this truck? Somebody had to imagine gears and a window wiper and fuel injection and this radio. Do you see what I mean? Lions do one thing over and over for 1,000 years, the same thing. It is in their muscles and their bones that their history is written. But us, we build, each generation building one on top of the past. We make our history outside us. We make a history to last to the next lifetime and the next. We can't escape the things that we made. The driver draws on his smoke deeply and then sends his breath to the morning. That is this truck. It is left behind by the inventors of the past. The sun-blasted country ambles by. Ahead, between one parched tree and the next, is a twisted thing. As they steam closer, it pulls into focus. A wreck. Its flesh melted so that only blackened metal remains, dull in morning's light. Tire burst! He didn't deflate. You see the strings of the tire there. Little Mikey thinks he can. Rubber-like rope trails from a bare axle topped by a bare rim. You got to deflate when it's hot. In this country it gets to 50 Celsius easy in the summer. Then you got to deflate. Otherwise you wreck and leave your bones out here in the sun for everyone to look at. Both crane their heads to look. Where a man would sit there is nothing. Only a chair surrounded by melted remains, and beneath it a pool of old oil spreading in the sand. I've driven many hours. I've driven more hours than you have even been alive. Many, many hours. I can say that even though I studied for my fitting and turning certificate, I'm glad it's my second trade. I wouldn't change driving a lorry for nothing. He laughs. It is a joyful sound. It fills the clattering cab while he bounces on his seat with it. Uncle, are you afraid of the escarpment? Afraid? Why? They say trucks fall off the side. The driver slides his hands from side to side across his great wheel. No, man, my boy, we won't fall. It doesn't work like that. This truck will stick to any road. The trucks that fall is because they don't look after it, or they drink. If you look after your truck looks after you. He reaches into his breast pocket and pulls out his pack of smokes. It's not falling you should be afraid of, it's hijackers. They can come any time, and then we are at war, my buddy. But you mustn't worry, I look after my truck, and so my truck will look after us. The shadow of the escarpment is ahead of them. Up there, says the driver, pointing to the crest burning in the now hidden sun, is where the world begins. Up there is Goudstad. In a moment they pass from light to dark. My name is Hertlas, by the way, says the driver suddenly, planting his smoke between his lips before sticking his right hand out across his body. Little Mikey leans over and shakes. I'm Mikey. Some people call me Little Mikey. Yeah, Little Mikey. This is an interesting world we live in. Have you heard of Siener van Rensburg? No, uncle. Who is that? He was an old boer, back then in the wartime. He made prophecies. He could see the future. He predicted everything, even the towers coming down. When the boys were ready to go hunting, they would ask him, and he would close his eyes and say, "The buck are 2 hours' walk to the east." How could he do that? He was right every time. He is like a legend. If you walk into any library, just ask for a book on Siener van Rensburg and they will have it. He shakes his head. This world is a fantastic place. Hertlas reaches down to his cool box between them. He clicks it open with his left hand and rubbages inside without looking, finally pulling out a can. Monster, it says on the side in bright orange letters. He cracks it open, putting it between his legs, and from the cubby in the dash he pulls out a sachet labelled BioPlus. He tears it with his teeth and then leaks the liquid into the can. He drops the sachet into a rubbish packet tied neatly around his gear lever, and then he takes a deep pull of his drink. He smacks his lips. Hey, you got to stay awake on these roads. It is 11 in the morning when Hertlas first notices them. The truck is just a few minutes from the start of the climb, deep in the shadow of the escarpment. No, my friend, here comes a pile of dung. He cranes to look out of his side window. Mikey does too, leaning forward and then standing on his chair to peer over Hertlas's shoulder. Beside them is a silver motorcar, a BMW with tinted windows. It keeps pace. Hertlas shakes his head. We're going to have an adventure now, my buddy. You better sit back there. Sit tight in your seat. Hertlas's tone is even and calm, but there is electricity in it. Little Mikey takes a last look over Hertlas's shoulder. The dark window of the BMW whirs down, revealing a man within. He wears a white bowler hat on his head and dark sunglasses cover his eyes. His face looks up at their faces. There is no movement from him, no flicker of recognition, no wave of greeting. But they are connected. They all know it. This must play out till the end. The BMW slows suddenly, settling in behind them. A moment later, a blue Mercedes speeds past them and pulls in ahead, keeping pace. Hertlas reaches for his cell phone. This is a high-value load, my buddy. We're carrying stereo players. Little Mikey is anxious. He folds his feet in under him, his back straight to peer out over the dash. But for the two cars, the road is empty. I know, says Hertlas, speaking into his cell phone. I have a proper situation here. We are about 10 k's from the start of the climb. Yes, my pal, 2 sedans, just like you said. Okay, we put foot. We do it. Hertlas drops his phone into the storage well and then reaches forward, flicking off his autopilot and freeing the throttle. We are going to see some action now, my buddy. You open the cubbyhole in front of you. He points to a panel in the dash in front of Little Mikey. Arm yourself, my buddy. We've got to take this seriously. And with that, he puts his foot flat. Immediately the cadence of the engine changes, the revolutions climbing. The massive truck surges forward. As it does, a red light starts to flash on the console. Yeah, there's the tracker going off. They can now see us by satellite. We must just hope there is a highway patrol near to us. Little Mikey flicks his eyes from the flashing light to the car in front. A hand appears out of the passenger side window. With a finger raised, it circles in the air, indicating for them to pull over. Oh no, my buddy, growls Hertlas. You're going to have to take us off the road. He pushes his foot down harder and the truck gathers its power and leaps forward. We can't outrun them, but if they touch us, we will take them out. The car ahead keeps pace from a safe distance, but now the hand extended out of the driver's window extends further, revealing a man climbing out of the car and sitting back on his doorsill to face them. He smiles, his bright teeth flashing in winter's light, his hair rippling in the wind, and then he takes his thumb and draws it across his throat. He points his finger at them. A chill runs through Little Mikey's blood. The man seems to be pointing straight to his own chest. Open that cubbyhole, my buddy. I'm going to need you here. Little Mikey flips the cubbyhole open. His eyes widen. There is the black handle of a firearm. Take it, my buddy. You just listen to Hertlas. I will tell you what to do. Little Mikey reaches in and takes hold of the weapon. It's heavy. You just hold that in your lap for now. The safety is on. It cannot fire. He whips his head right, looking out the window. Little Mikey stands on the seat again, desperate to see, the gun heavy as a brick in his small hand. The BMW has slid in beside them again. The same dark-tinted window slides down. There is the man with the sunglasses. His forehead is creased by a furious frown. Pull over! He seems to be shouting, motioning for them to do it. Oh no, my buddy, says Hertlas, and holds up his own hand, his middle finger raised. The man in the white bowler frowns at him a moment more and then turns to speak to someone in the back seat of the car. At the same time, Hertlas whips his eyes back to the car ahead. Here we go, my buddy! When it's time, snap that safety off there, like this! With one hand he grabs the gun from Little Mikey's hand and with his thumb shows him where to pull the safety catch down. Roughly he puts it back in Little Mikey's lap. You keep that safety up until I tell you. The man in the car ahead is reaching down, and suddenly there is a machine gun in his hand. Hertlas flicks his wheel. The huge truck lurches sideways, leaping to the lane beside them. The BMW jumps away like a puppy, and Hertlas immediately twists the wheel the other way and at the same time takes his foot off the accelerator. The truck slows. Little Mikey's heart is thundering in his chest. Are they pulling off? Will they stop for the men? The man with the machine gun is smiling and nodding, pointing to the yellow line on the side of the road. The BMW is pulling in once again, the man inside smiling also. And so is Hertlas. In an instant, his foot jams down on the accelerator and he twists the wheel to the right. This time the massive truck bounds sideways, a buffalo barging a hunting lion, and before the BMW can react, the nose of the cab clips it back left and the car goes spinning, speed bleeding off it. lurching back directly in front of the hurtling truck, and Hertlas does not stop. In a scream of rending metal, the massive man TGS plows into the smaller car, over and through it, crushing it mercilessly. "Get that fucking gun up, my buddy! Now there comes shit!" They smash through the wreckage, fouling their wheels and on, straight into the hunt, smelling the blood of the Mercedes ahead. There is consternation there. The man in the car window is shocked, fumbling with his machine gun, and then the barrel is drifting up to point directly at them. It flashes without sound. "Shoot, my buddy! Shoot!" The truck is screaming at full throttle, and in the chaos he has whirred little Mikey's window down. And now the boy lurches forward without knowing what he is doing or how, and points the gun out the window. "Shoot! Both hands!" Little Mikey closes his eyes and pulls the trigger. Nothing happens. "The safety! Take off the safety!" Hertlas begins to weave the great truck in the road. The muzzle of the machine gun ahead flashes again. And then the world ends as bullets smash into the engine beneath them and the sound of it cuts through the roaring. "Click that safety, Little Mikey!" Little Mikey sees the lever just above his thumb. He flicks it down. "Shoot, my buddy! We're not gonna die here! Shoot!" Little Mikey pulls his trigger. The gun kicks up into the air, shocking him, both his wrists immediately crying out, and a hole appears in the back window of the car ahead. "A hit! You hit him!" The machine gun man ahead lurches, grabbing a handhold to balance himself on the door sill while he shouts down into the car. Again he looks up at them. Again the muzzle flashes at them, light without sound. "Shoot, my buddy! He's going to hit us!" Little Mikey grits his teeth, bringing the barrel back to point at the car ahead. But then the man on the door sill raises his weapon and disappears inside, and the blue Mercedes speeds off. They watch it go. With relief, Little Mikey brings the weapon inside. Hertlas takes his foot off the accelerator and the great truck starts to slow. They pull off smoothly, coming to a stop beside the highway. Hertlas leans forward, resting his head against the great wheel. He reaches out a hand to Little Mikey, taking the gun from him and clicking the safety back on. Then he takes the boy by his shoulder and pulls him across the gap between their seats. He hugs him tight. "You're a little soldier, my friend. You're a little soldier." Little Mikey can feel Hertlas trembling. "You are brave, my buddy. A little soldier." Hertlas sits still for a moment, trembling, his breath sawing. Then, still with his arm around Little Mikey, he reaches for his cell phone. "Yeah, we okay. I know. We ran them off the road." Hertlas swallows, pulling his wild breathing back to him. "There is one wreck here. One got away." He nods at the voice speaking in his ear and then clicks the phone off. He hugs Little Mikey once more. "Thank you, my friend." Then he leaves the boy and sits back and breathes. Eventually, he reaches for his phone once again and dials. He sits there, the phone to his ear, waiting. Little Mikey begins to shake.